The Miami Heat have a lot of questions on what they're supposed to do this off-season. After trading away Jimmy Butler in the middle of the season and falling in the Eastern Conference, the direction is very uncertain of what Miami should do in a weakened Eastern Conference. Should they go out and get us another star to put alongside guys like Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo? Do they extend the contracts of some of those players on their team? Or do they finally say, hit the reset button, go towards the bottom, and really evaluate? Ultimately, I do think Miami will try to stay relevant in an Eastern Conference that is a little bit weakened, and we're going to be diving and exploring how the Heat could potentially do that this off-season in this episode of the Heat's off-season breakdown. Now, if you're a Miami Heat fan and you're watching this video, if this is the first time you're coming across this channel, I want to know your thoughts down below in the comment section, letting me know if I did a good job identifying the Miami Heat's offseason or a bad job identifying the Miami Heat's offseason. If you are a fan of this channel and you have been watching these videos, I do really appreciate all the support. And if you want to check out the other videos, we have a plethora of them down below talking about all these other teams that we've already mentioned with offseason breakdowns, so definitely go check them out. You guys have been hitting that subscribe button. You guys have been showing me the love in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts, and I can't thank you guys enough over these last couple of days. One of these videos has almost hit 1,000 views, and that's absolutely insane for me on how the quality is of these videos. So once again, you guys coming out here showing your support is absolutely key, and I really, really do appreciate it. But without further ado, let's get in and let's discuss this Miami Heat team. So like I broke down, I think there's a lot of questions surrounding this Miami Heat team and what avenue they really want to pursue. We want to look at the Eastern Conference last year, like I mentioned, 37-45, not to where they were at the likes of the seasons previous before Jimmy Butler went down with a couple of those injuries, and this team's defensive players were really, really missing. We saw the Heat, even post Jimmy Butler trade, try to put up a fight, but not a great one, losing to the Cleveland Cavaliers and getting swept, and just being really boring. Gave some fun runs in the play-in, but it's clear as day that this Heat team, with the core that they have currently of Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero, is just not matched at the tops of these Eastern Conference stars. You look at Cleveland, they got better bigs and younger guards with Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley. The Celtics, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. The Knicks, Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns. The Pacers in the finals, led by Tyrese Halliburton and his guys. The Bucks, if they keep Giannis, are going to be with him. The Pistons have Cade Cunningham. The Magic have Paolo Banchero. The Miami Heat have Tyler Hero. That's their main thing that they're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. Tyler Hero. That's what I'm saying. Tyler Hero is a great scorer, great player, but he's not going to be your number one option on a championship level team. Neither is Bam Adebayo. So when you're in this situation with the Miami Heat, where you have a bunch of guys who can play pretty solid defense, kind of help the development of those guys and keep you afloat, what do you ultimately ask yourself? What direction do you really see yourself going? Ultimately, I do see them looking to kind of get off some of these albatross contracts, or contracts that maybe didn't benefit them as much as they thought of when they signed them or traded for them for the Miami Heat, to kind of revamp their roster to kind of still stay competitive. But with the Heat being at $185 million, it does give them the flexibility to do so in free agency, to even bring in some potential quality guys to really help out their direction of their team. Once again, with the Miami Heat having the 20th overall pick by not making the play-in or the lottery, kind of also ostracizes them to kind of really hit on this draft pick. We saw with Jaime Jaquez, he had a really good rookie season. Last year, not the greatest. Nikola Jovic had some pretty good seasons, but also hasn't been that standout player. So it's really key for Miami to identify that diamond in the rough with this 20th overall pick as well. When we talked about the draft, we'll get into that in a little bit. Right now, we're going to talk about players that I think the Heat could potentially trade this off season. So let's dive into that. And like I mentioned, they're going to try to get rid of some of these albatross contracts. I don't see them trying to trade Tyler Hero. I don't see them trying to trade Bam Adebayo. I could see them working that extension with Tyler Hero as well. But when we talk about albatross contracts, I think the main one that comes to mind is a player in Terry Rozier. Now, Rozier was traded from Charlotte to Miami after a pretty good season with the Hornets, was expected to be a solid shot creator and scorer along this team, but just hasn't been able to. One, just not even been able to stay healthy, but two, the offensive prowess that he's been able to bring with this Miami team has significantly dropped, and specifically with the Miami Heat, losing Jimmy Butler and losing so many of their impactful defenders and, key hustle guys from those older Heat teams like the Max Strus, like the Gabe Vincent on those, two-way contracts that work themselves way up to kind of keep them in the competitive spot. A player like Terry Rozier doesn't really fit. Now, Terry Rozier's $21 million contract is a pretty bad one for his value, so for Miami looking to get at least any value for a Terry Rozier contract, it might not be the greatest, but it's going to be someone that can provide some offense but also can play some pretty solid defense as well, to once again bring that identity, bring that culture back in, because with trading away Jimmy Butler, you did supplement it with adding Andrew Wiggins, who's once again a phenomenal defender, but you still need some very much needed defense. So if I'm the Miami Heat, Main guys I'm looking to go out there are some key target defenders. Maybe a Jordan Clarkson can kind of bring that scoring and shooting. I know he's on Utah, and he didn't have the greatest shooting season, but he can be, I guess, a little bit of a more veteran, key, locked-in defender than a guy like Terry Rozier. And if he has a better shooting stats and better fitting shooting numbers in a fit in Miami, he might look as a better fit. Best thing is, they're both on one-year deals, and Utah's always looking to get out of contracts, so I'm sure they would take on a Terry Rozier if you were to ask them about a Jordan Clarkson. Now, once again, that's not the perfect fit, but with a contract like Terry Rozier, you might not be able to get the perfect fit for the Miami Heat. Another one of their contracts that they're said to be looking to trade is Duncan Robinson, and with Duncan Robinson, it's just, once again, another clear issue. Was a great player, was deserving of that contract when they signed him his rookie year after he had a great season, but when you have Tyler Hero as your main number one option and he does the same thing as your number one role player, scoring and shooting, obviously you need it around Jimmy Butler because he can't really shoot and score the ball. He's more of a driver, passer, more defensive piece, right? Mid-range scorer, ISO player. He's not going to be shooting those threes and being an effective three-point shooter, and you want scoring around him. But when your two best players, again, arguably from Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, do the same thing in the same role, at the same position, at the same size, it's not going to benefit you. And I've said this over and over and over again about Duncan Robinson. No one wanted to trade for Duncan Robinson's contract because it was so long, and no one felt it was worth that value post his rookie season because he had a sophomore slump, had a pretty good season last year. But on the last year of his deal, it's going to be tradable because everyone's going to value a scoring wing on a one-year deal, right? But for Miami, this was a major issue from the beginning. This is why you have to get out of this contract, because you once again have too many of the same role and same piece. When you look at Phoenix, a very similar team that has the same thing. So I don't know, a little bit of a rant about Duncan Robinson. I still think he could be a valuable wing scorer for a plethora of teams, even younger teams that are just looking for some shooting variance on the wing. Can be type of little Grayson Allen type of guy. Once again, for a team that is wanting that shooting, wouldn't be shocked if some teams middling around the playoffs, like Orlando or potentially even Detroit, were interested in this, or even some teams out west. But once again, Miami just doesn't need another Tyler Hero when they're going to be looking to extend him and trying to develop him as their number one scorer. So move off Duncan Robinson, please. And then lastly, the only reason why I'm including Andrew Wiggins in this is because Wiggins is the only matchable or really tradable contract for the Miami Heat to go out and get a star player to this team. And I do think that's what they're going to ultimately look out to go out and do. I do think Miami, they have been mentioned with a guy in DeMar DeRozan who, once again, might be a little bit past his prime. And if you have DeRozan, Wiggins, Bam Adebayo, and Tyler Hero, what does that really get you? Probably 6th, maybe 5th in the Eastern Conference. It's not getting you to a number 1 or number 2 seed, so I don't know why they're pushing for that. But Wiggins, ultimately, in my opinion, is that quality defender that you want if you're putting a championship team or trying to build a championship team. So I wouldn't want to trade his contract to bring in that star. But once again, like I mentioned, his contract is very tradable at $28 million. Is one of the only tradable contracts besides Tyler Hero or Bam Adebayo that this team realistically has. So if they want to go and get that star and want to go get that major impact piece, a guy like Andrew Wiggins may have to be included. But I do think that Andrew Wiggins is a complementary 4th or 5th piece in your rotation if you're the Miami Heat, specifically with lacking those defensive options in the starting lineup, with having Bam Adebayo, Andrew Wiggins, Tyler Hero, and another offensive creator minus DeMar DeRozan, who's an ISO scorer. I think that this team could flourish, right? If they were to get a Lauri Markkanen in a deal, right? Or maybe even a John Collins to add some defense to help out with this team, a guy in Andrew Wiggins would be a perfect complementary piece around those guys, in my opinion. But ultimately, trading a guy like Wiggins for one of those pieces, I don't think solves, once again, the defensive issues that you would have on your roster, which then leaves you in another hole of trying to chase that via free agency or another trade, which then, once again, complicates things for Miami to contend. So those are the 3 guys I think they could trade. Like I mentioned, Bam, I don't think he's going to be traded. Tyler Hero, I don't think he's going to be traded. Maybe if they pursued a Kevin Durant deal, one of these young guys like a Nikola Jovic, Jaime Jaquez, Khalil Ware also goes in that deal. But ultimately, I do think that the Miami Heat will look to make moves on the fringes around these guys, at Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo, to stay competitive and to stay relevant in this Eastern Conference, regardless if that's the destination that I think they should be doing. Now, when looking at their first round pick, they do have one, and it is at pick 20. And there are some key guys that the Miami Heat could draft, around pick 20 that could really impact the direction of this team and how I think could realistically help them change and going for some contention and winning. So the first player I want to talk about is Igor Demon from BYU, and I don't know if Igor is going to be available at pick 20. He seemed to vividly rise since the post-draft combine, being around, potentially even being a lottery pick or right outside of the lottery. So for Miami, landing a guy like Igor at pick 20 would be an absolute steal, but he is exactly what you want around Tyler Hero. You want playmaking, pass-first point guard who is 6'7" and has the frame to compensate Tyler Hero's defensive inabilities. Igor Demin is the guy that can do that. Now, obviously, he's not the best defender, but his frame and size will be able to help you outside alongside Miami as well. You can also, once again, like I mentioned, take those playmaking and point guard duties away from Tyler Hero, allowing Tyler Hero to go back into that off-ball scoring guard, similar to what we've seen with guys like, a Jalen Green or Devin Booker. And I truly do believe that's where we're going to see the best version of Tyler Hero is with a pass-first, pretty long size, capable defending playmaker around him. And unfortunately, with guys like Terry Rozier, that's not physically happening. So a guy like Igor Demin, I think, would be an absolute steal for the Miami Heat if they can land him. Once again, a team who brings up the best with their Heat culture and in their draft picks. Demin, someone who has risen late in the lottery stocks, could be an undermined gem or has untapped potential for a Miami Heat team who could potentially bring the best out of a demon in a point guard alongside Tyler Hero at the cheap. Now, another one to mention alongside him is Nolan Traore. Now, Traore is, once again, another playmaking point guard, kind of pass first, similar to a guy that can fit well alongside a player in Tyler Hero, putting him back to those off-ball roles. The only problem with Traore, a little bit smaller of a frame than a guy in Igor Demin, and obviously played overseas in France. So it's how tapped in are the Miami Heat with these international products. Traore was a projected top 5 pick in the draft last year when the draft ended, so he does have that upside potential from people on the outside, just obviously comparative with a year of looking at other guys compared to him in his stats. He's seemingly started to fall, but had that untapped potential and had that high upside at the beginning of last year's draft. So if you're the Miami Heat, wanting to swing big on a guy that potentially could pan out to be one of the best prospects at the point guard position in the draft, a guy like Nolan Traore might be that guy to also look at if you're the Heat. And then lastly, I haven't done much research on Drake Powell, but he's a pretty solid two-way wing. I saw in the Ringers mock draft, he's projected to land at pick 20 versus the Heat. And I think, once again, if you're the Heat and you're looking to add some size or add some defense at the wing department, if you are giving away a guy in Wiggins, or even if you are keeping a guy in Wiggins, one of these picks in Drake Powell, or even a guy in Nick Clifford from Colorado State, I think could be that effective two-way wing for you if you're the Heat. Once again, the Heat, in my opinion, just need to add some playmaking, some defense. They don't need scoring and offense. They have that in Tyler Hero. Maybe need to adjust and add that on some fringe bench pieces on the outskirts of this roster. But ultimately, I don't necessarily think this team needs an all-another offensive threat paired alongside Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo, unless it's a Kevin Durant or a Lauri Markkanen, and you're getting that guy via a trade in which you're giving up some defense. So bringing in a guy like Drake Powell, or potentially even a guy in Nick Clifford, could solve those issues for Miami as well. And then lastly, looking at free agents, why not Chris Boucher? Chris Boucher in Toronto played a very valuable role, can play the power forward, can play some small ball center. I know that they have a guy in Kello where they want to make Bam the power forward, right? So maybe they look towards the center. Maybe they're more interested in a Clint Capella to help grab those rebounds and be an interior defender. That's someone else I'd keep an eye on as a free agent destination for Miami as a low-value piece. But why not Chris Boucher? I know he can't start, but he can play some quality minutes for you at the power forward. You've had guys as Kevin Love, who's been playing minutes, Nikola Jovic, Haywood Highsmith, Jaime Jaquez, and they have to trade some of those guys. There's no, clear path for those guys as of, really rising or being these impact players. So why not get a quality veteran if you're trying to stay relevant in Chris Boucher? I know that he would be interested in a team like Miami because they have that winning culture, and they could probably show to him, hey, we can be better than what Toronto can be, even if they do try to swing a Giannis or a Kevin Durant trade, because it's probably not going to happen. And they're probably going to stay middling, and they have a bunch of wings that can play your position. And RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, Jonathan Mopo, etc. We can offer you the ability to come off the bench, be our first big off the bench, and play some quality minutes as a rebounder, as a low post scorer, as, potentially even a three-point shooter where Chris Boucher can stretch to his ability if needed. And I think this adds a lot of elements to how Miami wants to utilize Bam Adebayo as a scorer, and allows them to have that ability to use that even when Bam Adebayo isn't off the court, and using some scoring in their power forward position. Some other key free agents, maybe if they want to look at point guard, Malcolm Brogdon, a Dennis Schroeder type could be also the way that the Miami Heat go if they do trade off a guy in Terry Rozier, or if they do trade off some of these guys and would like to get a quality veteran to keep them afloat. Like I said, Miami has a lot of questions. Do they go trading for a superstar? Do they kind of stay middling with some of their players and minorly upgrade? Ultimately, I do think they will be an Eastern Conference playoff team, if not a play-in team next off season, and we'll have to keep all our eyes on how they do next off season, because I think this offseason and next year is the key indicator, right? If Miami goes out and makes a big splash, they go out and get that star, and then they don't live to those expectations, it's going to look drastic. Or if they stay middling and they don't go out that star and they once again fall and stay middling in this Eastern Conference, it's a key indicator that this core cannot compete. Maybe some other directions for Miami might be on the horizon. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Like I said, if you are a Heat fan, let me know if I did a good job or a bad job analyzing their offseason projections. And if you did enjoy the content, definitely check out the other videos. Like I said, you guys have been fantastic showing your support on these videos on this channel. We've already risen almost, I believe, 10-15 subscribers since making these videos, which is just insane. So thank you guys so much. As you know, trying to do this full time with media and stuff like that, so building this is just the start of it, and I really appreciate you all guys for being here for the foundation. So thank you guys for tuning in, hanging out. We'll have more offseason breakdowns coming for you guys in the next couple of days, one every single day leading up to the draft. If any trades or any outside news happens out in the NBA, we will also have that covered, so make sure to stay tuned. Once again, thank you guys so much. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Peace out.